Bueno, buenos dias. This is the second video for those people who are doing beginner Spanish. And if you're interested, obviously, this is for you as well. So quite often in conversations, when you're meeting people, they quite often want to know where you live. So I thought we'd do a bit of a lesson on where people live. So let's go straight into it. So the first question might be, ¿Dónde vives? So this is the informal you version. ¿Dónde vives? Where do you live? So your answers might be, vivo en, I live in, el sur de, in the south of, el norte de, in the north of, el oeste de, in the west of, el este de, the east of. And then you can combine these by putting el before them. So el suroeste, the southeast, el noreste, northeast. Note that it's noreste, not norte-este. Sureste, suroeste, sorry, southwest, and noroeste, northwest. Okay, so you could put those in. So if you lived in, I don't know, Canterbury, for example, then you could say vivo en el suroeste. And then we'll go on to countries next. So we've got Inglaterra, England, Escocia, Scotland, Gales, Wales, or El País de Gales, it's the country of the Gauls, literally, but you can use that one instead. España, Francia, is France, and Alemania is Germany. España I didn't say, but it's Spain, just in case you didn't know that. Or then we could be more specific. So el condado de, the county of. So el condado de Surrey, el condado de Wiltshire, for example. En las afueras de, in the outskirts of, or in the suburbs of. And mi barrio está en, so my neighborhood or my where I live is in, so we could say in the north or the south or east or the west of London, for example. Mi barrio está en el norte de Londres or está en el oeste de Manchester, west of Manchester. Or we could say mi ciudad, mi pueblo, mi aldea está en. So ciudad is town, a large town, normally city. Pueblo is a small town or a large village. Aldea is a really small village. Está en, so I'll just go through this again. Mi ciudad, mi pueblo, mi aldea, está en. Ciudad, just have to be careful with the spelling there. If you change the I and the U round the other way, it means care rather than town. So just be careful of those. And I know I mentioned this perhaps on the last video when we did introductions, but let's just have a look at the possessive adjectives. I do have a video on this. If you want to do more on this, there's a video on that as well. So we could change, instead of my town or my neighborhood, we could change it to tu or su or nuestro if it's barrio, or nuestra if it's town, vuestro or su, so we can kind of use those different ones to change who we're talking about, especially if you're introducing your family or another colleague. The S on the end for some of them is for if the thing that you're talking about is plural, and then for nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, nuestras, the our forms depends on, again, whether the thing is masculine or feminine or singular or plural. Again, if you want to know more on that, have a look at my video on possessive adjectives. Okay, so let's have a look at the verb to live, and then you can use that for other people. So we've got vivir is the verb to live. Okay, so then we've got vivo, which we've done already. Vives is you live in the singular form, so we could use that in question forms, which we'll have a look in a minute. And that's singular and informal. Vive, he, she, or it lives, but you could also use that for you live formal. So somebody you're talking to who you don't know very well, who's older than you might use the vive form. Vivimos, we live. Vivis, you live plural, informal. And viven, they live, or again, you could use this for the formal form for you live and a plural form. So if you're talking to more than one person, again, you could use that in a question format. Just to give you a bit of tenses, just in case you wanted to kind of extend a little bit, you could have vivia in the imperfect tense. Again, if you want to know more about that, look at my video on the imperfect. Vivia, I used to live, but it also means he, she, or it used to live as well, or the you formal singular used to live. So that ending can be used for all of those. Voy a vivir, I'm going to live. So if you're going to move somewhere, or if you're in a business meeting and you know you're going to be moving to a place near the place in Spain, for example, or Latin America. And then si pudiera, viviría en. If I could, I would live in. You might use that as a kind of question or kind of extension to what you're saying. So question format. So when using where, we've got Dónde vives, which we've seen already. Where do you live? We could use Dónde vive, where does he or she live? Or if we're doing the formal form, where do you live, formal singular, Dónde vive? Dónde viven, where do they live? Or again, where do you live, formal, plural. And then we could question, vives en España? Do you live in Spain? So if you're questioning where they live, we could change that to the formal form as well. Vive en, formal you. Or we could use that as a question for, does he live in, or does she live in? Vive en. So can you see here in Spanish, we can either use a question format like we do, question words like we do in English, or we could use just the verb, and then we raise our voice to become do you. Now, vives en, do you live in? Vive en, does he live in? Okay, so we just put the verb at the front. So for question formats in Spanish, it's quite easy. We just use the verb in whatever tense, use the statement, and then raise our voice at the end to give us our question. Again, I've got a video on question formats. If you're not sure how they work, or you'd like to know a bit more, have a look at my video on questions. Okay, so another way we could ask somebody about where they live or where they're from is the question de dónde eres? Where are you from? So you could say soy de. So instead of saying I live in, you can say where you're from. Because you might live in Spain, but you're from Scotland or from Wales, for example. So soy de, I'm from, and then we've got our countries Inglaterra, España, Francia, Alemania, England, Spain, France, and Germany. And then we could put our compass points in. Soy del sur de Inglaterra, I'm from the south of England, or del norte de Francia, from the north of France. Another one is de qué nacionalidad eres? What nationality are you? And again, we could use our soy, I am, or I am of a nationality, soy de nacionalidad. Or we could say my nationality is, mi nacionalidad es. Mitad, mitad. Some people like to say how they're half something, half something. So mitad means half. So mitad, whatever, and mitad, another nationality. And adjectives, if you've looked at my video on adjectives, you'll know that generally there isn't a feminine when things end in a consonant, but this is an exception. So when we're doing nationality, if there is a consonant on the end, we do add an A on the end to try and make it a feminine form. All right, so let's give you an example. So Inglés is the masculine English. Inglesa is a feminine English. So if you're a woman, then you'd use Inglesa. Gales, Welsh, Galesa, Welsh as a woman. Escocés, the male form, and Escocesa, the female form, the feminine form. Okay, so that's Scottish. Okay, Español, Spanish, Española for a lady, or something is feminine. Francés, the masculine, Francesa, the feminine. Alemán, German, Alemana, without the accent on when you put it into Alemana. And Austriaco, Austrian, Austriaca, if you're doing the feminine form. I do have, again, a video on adjectives of nationality and some practice of that if you'd like to know a bit more. So we did look at this verb in the last video. So this is the verb to be, ser, in a permanent form. So there are two verbs to be in Spanish. This one's the permanent one. The other one we looked at, it was the one that was non-permanent. So this goes soy, eres, es, somos, sois, and son. Again, there's a video on ser and estar if you want to know a bit more about that. But I've also put this verb into the Quizlet so you can practice this verb if you need to. So again, you can play around with answers for that and play around with questions as well. So some practice. So pause it now. This is challenge level 1. So pause it, have a go, look back at the other video if you're not sure some of the answers for this. See if you can translate these, and I'll go over the answers in a minute. So the answer for this one, good morning, how are you? Informal. Buenos días, ¿qué tal? Or you could use ¿cómo estás? I'm fine, and you? Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? Again, we're using informal. I'm okay. Estoy regular. And then we're asking our question from this video, ¿Dónde vives? Again, we're using informal singular. I live in England. Vivo en Inglaterra, en el sur. ¿Y tú? Vivo en España, en el norte. ¿De qué nacionalidad eres? Soy galés, or you could do feminine form, galesa. ¿Y tú? And then soy española, español, or española for the answer for I'm Spanish. Okay. Right, the next one is challenge 2. So have a go at that one, or you can skip challenge 1 if you want to and go straight to challenge 2. So challenge 2, have a look through again, pause it. If you think it's too easy, you can go on to challenge 3, which comes after this one, and you can work your way through all the challenges. So, buenos días, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? We're using informal again. Estoy fantástico, or if you're a lady, you'd say fantástica. ¿Y tú? Estoy regular. ¿Dónde vives? We're using informal singular as well. And we're giving a bit more detail in this one. Vivo en el sureste de Inglaterra, en las afueras de Canterbury. ¿Y tú? ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from this time? Vivo en Alemania, pero soy español o española, again, depending on your masculine or feminine. ¿Eres inglés o inglesa? So we're using a question there. And then we're using a tense. No, pero viví en Francia, soy francés o francesa. Okay, and then challenge 3. Again, pause this now and have a go, and then we'll go through it in a minute. So this time we're using formal, so just be careful of that one. So the answers. Buenos días, ¿cómo está? We wouldn't use ¿qué tal for a formal form, but we would use the he, she, it form, which also is the you singular. Formal form, ¿cómo está? Estoy bien, y usted? So if we're using formal, we use y usted. ¿Dónde vive? So again, we're using the formal form. Okay, so our answer would be vivo en el condado de Kent, en las afueras de Canterbury, y voy a vivir en una aldea pequeña en el sur. ¿Y usted? Vivo en Francia y si pudiera viviría en el sur de París, pero vivo en el norte. Vivía en Toulouse. ¿Es inglés o inglesa? No, soy francés o francesa, pero vivo en Londres a veces. Okay, so have a go at that and then go through it again if you're not sure.